skin is made of 2 to 3 layers, depending on which book you read. Some people don't consider the hypodermis a layer of skin. But let's start with the epidermis. It is a stratified squamous epithelial tissue, so it's designed for protection. It does not have any blood vessels, so there are blood vessels underneath it that it gets its nourishment from, and as cells move towards the outside of it, they die. So the outer layer is dead cells. The next layer down is the dermis. That is the thicker layer. It is made up mainly of connective tissue. In it you'll see lots of things like sweat glands, pressure receptors, oil glands, hair follicles, all that good stuff. Then the next level down is the hypodermis. So you can see it's mostly adipose tissue, also some connective tissue in there. And we're going to watch this movie about how the skin works.
During the course of life, the cells of the outer layer of the epidermis are sloughed off. This means that the skin must continually renew itself by replacing the sloughed off cells with new ones. Those new cells are created in the lowest level of the epidermis, the stratum basal. The stratum basal consists of a layer of columnar stem cells. These stem cells continually undergo mitosis, producing new skin cells. As new cells are produced, they push the older cells upward toward the skin's surface. As the cells are pushed upward, they stop dividing and instead produce keratin, a tough, fibrous protein. The keratin replaces the cytoplasm and nucleus in each cell. The cells flatten, and as they move farther away from their blood supply, they die. By the time the cells reach the outermost layer, called the stratum corneum, all that is left of the dead cells is their keratin. The newly arriving flattened cells, called keratinocytes, replace the dead cells that flake away with daily wear.
Okay, so your skin is constantly being, the cells on the outer surface are constantly falling off, and it's constantly being replaced, and it takes about a month to go from the lowest level to the outside to fall off. So I don't know why people spend so much money on getting youthful looking skin when their skin is only a month old. So the life cycle of an epidermal cell. So it starts out in this deepest layer, the stratum basal, and that's where you have stem cells that are producing new skin cells. The new cells will push outward towards the surface, and then they start producing lots of keratin, and they flatten. Keratin's a tough fibrous protein that makes your skin tough. And as they keep moving up and away from the blood supply, they die. And then by the time they reach the outer layer called the stratum corneum, they're just dead cells. But it's still good for protection. Okay, then the next thing is thick and thin skin. So thick skin has an extra layer in its epidermis. This is found only in the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet, areas where you experience a lot of friction. You'll notice thick skin does not have hair follicles. Thin skin does have hair follicles, sebaceous glands, sweat glands. Is found everywhere else in your body except for palms of hands and soles of feet. Alright, next is the function of melanin. So one of the cells that you'll find in the epidermis are melanocytes, and they produce melanin. It is your body's natural sunscreen, so it protects the nucleus from ultraviolet exposure. So you'll find melanin surrounding the nucleus because that's what you really want to protect from ultraviolet exposure. That's where UV rays cause damage to your DNA in the nucleus. And so people that go tanning or get a tan from the sun, in response to that, your body produces more melanin to give more protection, and that's why you get darker. But that's also why tanning is not permanent. And again, the amount and type of melanin determines skin color. So there's different types of melanin, and depending on which type you get, that determines your skin color. Alright, next thing is abnormal changes in skin color. So the first condition we'll talk about is cyanosis. This is when your skin turns blue, and this is due to not enough oxygen in your blood. Next one is jaundice. This is a yellow discoloration of the skin and the whites of the eyes. This is due to impaired liver function, and it allows bile to accumulate and build up in the skin. It's also common in newborns where their livers aren't quite developed yet. Next one is bronzing. This is when your skin turns a golden brown color. You might think you have a nice tan, but it's actually due to a deficiency of hormones. Addison's disease is the main cause of this, which actually can be deadly. Next one is albinism. This is when you have extremely pale skin, white hair, and pink eyes, and this is when your body does not produce melanin. You do not have the instructions to make that protein. Next one is erythema, which is just abnormal redness. This is caused by an increase in blood flow to the skin. Could be due to heat, exercise, sunburn. Sometimes it happens when we're embarrassed or mad. Next one is pallor or pale skin. This is due to decreased blood flow, such as when you get really cold, or it can happen with fear, or low blood pressure, or blood loss. And then a bruise or a hematoma. This could be a blue to black or yellowish mark on the skin, and it's due to the breakdown of clotted blood under the skin. So there's bleeding under your skin, and that's what causes the dark color. And then as it's broken down, generally it turns to more yellowish, and eventually it goes away. Alright, 5 functions of the skin. So first is protection. Your skin is almost like a suit of armor, except it's not as strong as a suit of armor. It's also a lot lighter though. It's a barrier. It keeps bad things out, keeps a lot of bacteria out. Vitamin D production happens in your skin. It's also important for sensory perception. Most of your touch receptors are located in the skin. And it's also important for thermoregulation. So when you get too hot, for instance, you send more blood to your skin, and that way you lose more heat to the outside, so that helps cool you down. When you're cold, you'll send less blood to the skin, and that way you don't lose as much heat to the environment, and you keep your blood to keep your heart and your brain warm. Alright, new skin cells produce which tough fibrous protein? And the correct answer is keratin. Alright, next we're supposed to know the structure and function of hair. So this figure shows a hair follicle. Hair grows down in the dermis inside a hair follicle. You'll have a hair bulb or hair root, and the hair papilla is where it gets its blood supply. So the hair root, that's where it's growing from, and then it extends out where it sticks out above the surface of the skin. That's called the shaft. And skin hair is for protection. This is why, for example, bald guys can't go out in the sun without a hat. Also protects us from cuts and things. Provides a little bit of warmth. Then next we have nails. So nails are made up of what's called hard keratin, found on the edges of our fingers and toes, just for protection. Some people use these when they're nervous to chew them. That's not really what they're designed for though. Next is sweat glands, and there are 2 types of sweat glands. An eccrine sweat gland is the more common type that's found all over your body. It produces basically salt water to cool you off. And then the apocrine sweat glands, that's the purple one. These are always associated with hair follicles, and these are found only in the axillary and genital regions. And these don't become active till puberty. And these are the ones that cause, some people think they're scent glands. They cause body odor, and it's actually not you that stinks. It's actually the bacteria that live on your skin that cause that unpleasant odor. So next time someone tells you you stink, blame your bacteria. The next we have sebaceous glands. These are also associated with hair follicles. These are oil glands. They produce what's called sebum. It keeps your skin soft. It also has some antibacterial properties, so it can keep you healthy. And then we have ceruminous glands. These are found in the ear, and they secrete earwax. It helps keep your ear canal from drying out. Also keeps bugs out. Alright, so which gland secretes sweat onto the skin surface? And correct answer would be the eccrine glands. Alright, next we need to know the different types of burns. Basically, burns are described by how many layers of skin are damaged. So a first degree burn involves only the epidermis. You'll just have redness, some swelling, some pain. Can result from sunlight or from hot temperatures. Touching a hot pan or something. So first degree is just the epidermis is damaged, and those heal pretty quickly. A second degree burn involves the epidermis and the dermis. These are characterized by blisters, worse pain and swelling, may scar. So these are a little bit more serious. And then a third degree burn is the epidermis, the dermis, and the subcutaneous or the hypodermis layer. These sometimes don't hurt at first because the nerves are damaged. They can be white or black and leathery, and these are often going to require skin grafts. So a third degree burn is much worse. Next we have a question. A patient's face was exposed to a blast of steam from a broken water heater. The skin is red with white patches, is also swollen and beginning to blister. The patient says the skin is extremely painful. What is the most likely diagnosis? And that would be a second degree burn. The blisters and the pain are what tells you that it's a second degree burn. Alright, next we have skin cancer, the most common type of cancer. The most common type is basal cell carcinoma. So those cells in your stratum basal are rapidly dividing anyway, and cancer is when they basically start dividing out of control. So this is the most common type, but it usually doesn't metastasize. Typically appears on the nose or the face. Typically can be treated by surgery. You just cut it out and don't have to worry about it anymore. Next type is squamous cell carcinoma. These cancer arises from the epidermis. This is a slow-growing cancer. Has a raised red scaly appearance. May metastasize. Some forms do, so it's a little bit more dangerous. The worst one is melanoma. Malignant melanoma. It spreads. This develops from the melanocytes in your skin, so those pigment-producing cells. It can come from a pre-existing mole. It spreads pretty quickly, so this is the most deadly kind. And you can see this example here. So if you have a mole that's small and perfectly fine, it's probably fine. But doctors use the ABCDE rule. So A is for asymmetry. So if you have a mole that's not symmetric, that's not a good sign. The B is for border. If you look at this one, that top border is kind of irregular. A smooth border is probably fine. C is the color. So if it's different colors, or if it's like not the normal color of your moles, that's a bad sign. And then the D is for diameter. So if it's bigger than a pencil eraser, that's probably a bad sign. And then the E is for emerging. So if it's changing, or if you see one that seems to be growing, that's a bad sign, and you should get it checked out. Alright, then we have a couple skin disorders. So first one is acne. This is inflammation of the sebaceous glands, especially common during puberty. The follicle becomes blocked with dead keratinocytes and sebum, and this results in the whiteheads. Continued inflammation produces pus and then causes the pimples. Dermatitis is inflammation of the skin characterized by itching and redness. This can be due to exposure to chemicals or toxins such as poison ivy. Eczema is an itchy red rash caused by an allergy. The lesions, they can weep or ooze serum, and they can become crusted, thickened, or scaly. That's usually a genetic disorder. It seems to run in families. Then impetigo is a contagious bacterial infection of the skin. It produces yellow to red, weeping, crusted, or pustular lesions around the mouth, nose, or cheeks, or on the extremities.